Hello, welcome. This is your multiple award-winning tech show on television where we look at issues, trends, developments in the global ICT industry. Today, we have a great package for you. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
No child between the age of 6 and the age of 13 can be found on the streets of Nigeria unless they are in school. And whoever is their parents will be arrested for negligence.
All right, it's still Tech Africa. Coming up now is Tech News. That was Tech News. When we come back, you'll meet our tech personality of the week. And today, we focus on digitization in the educational sector.
It started first as a challenge that I faced as a growing tutor, where someone hired me to teach his son mathematics, and he didn't pay me at the end of the month. So I felt, what could I do to ensure that doesn't happen? But then I also realized that he had been trying to find a math teacher for over 3 months, whereas my house was about 15 minutes away from him. So I felt that if he could find me quicker, then I'll be able to impact more on his son, and I'll have made the little money I needed to make to fund my education. And so I felt, let me create this platform where people can quickly find very good teachers, and also ensure that the teachers get paid whenever they deliver service, so that what happened to me doesn't happen to other people. It has been, working on Tuteria has been very rewarding. We have grown tremendously. Right now we have close to 15,000 tutors across Nigeria, teaching various subjects and skills from math to makeup to video editing to speaking a new language like Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa. And we've had over 4,000 students that have had a lesson with us, also across Nigeria. So there's been a lot of demand for the service that we offer, and we've grown since then. If digitizing education is really the future, it's where every nation is driving towards. However, it cannot replace the place of human contact between student and teacher. So what digitization helps a lot more is help facilitate the interaction between a teacher and a student. So I'll give some instances. The first I think of is access to education. I mean, before the advent of video lessons or internet, many of us were restricted to the books we had in the library. So if you're in a school where you don't have a library, you probably don't have access to books, and then that affects your learning. But then with more digitization, you could be a student in a school in Lagos, but learning materials from schools at MIT or Harvard. That access to quality education is what digitization has made possible. So a lot of us in Nigeria take courses that before now we may not have had access to those kinds of courses. Second has been cost. it's a bit expensive to hire, let's say you want to train a lot of people, to hire people to train everybody. But it's cheaper if you created a digital form of that same course. So digitization means taking what you would have learned in person and turning that into a form that you can distribute to many people. So it could be in the form of mobile apps, it could be in the form of a video course, or a book that is created, in digital form, that you can give to many more people. That way it reduces the cost of education. So for instance, people take online courses where naturally you'll have had to pay, say, up to 5 million to go through that course, but you're paying much less because you're avoiding the logistics or transportation and accommodation and all those things that increase the cost of learning. So there's been access and cost. And then the third is digitizing education helps you understand the learning style of the students. Yeah, so like I said, what it has done is it has given access to education. Many people who could not have gotten access to education. So take Tuteria for instance. Before we came in, people who wanted to learn Hausa, it was difficult to know where to go because there are not too many places to go to learn Hausa. But with our technology, we've sort of brought Hausa learning to you. So the access to information and education is you have fewer hurdles to cross to achieve your learning goals. And in schools, for instance, say secondary schools or a bit of primary school, some of the tools that the teachers use. Before now, you had these paper sheets. After test, you record the score of the child, but that doesn't give you much information about the child's growth rate. So there are some softwares now that helps the teachers record information about every single child. What that means is the parents, you don't have to wait till the end of the term to know where your child is lacking. You can actually see report on a real-time basis, and there are a number of schools that have adopted such technologies. Yeah, so it has increased access and it has helped us reduce the cost of education. Yes, I think I understand why experts will feel education is at the lowest end because, first of all, the investment of the government in the education has been quite low, which means somehow they have not prioritized, they have not given it the place it requires in the national budget. Investment in education reflects in the human capital development of the populace. So because that has not happened, there's a reason to say that our education is quite shabby. And that's also because many of the educational institutions are not operating at their fullest capacity. Sometimes you have more students in class than the teachers to teach them. For example, the UN standard is 1 teacher to 20 students, but then in our Nigerian schools you have 1 teacher to 50 students, sometimes 60 students. I think it's a complex solution. So a research showed that the greatest factor that affects the education of a child is the quality of the teacher. Affects up to 54% of the outcome of that child. So which means if a solution would be done, the first has to be on the side of the teacher. That's from a government or institutional perspective, because the quality, exposure and devotion of the teacher has the greatest impact on the quality of learning. So of course there's a lot that has to be done about teacher training and retraining and recertification, and just making sure that teachers are happy, their compensation package, but much more their training and their exposure. Because the way people learn in some countries or some schools are different from the way that some of us learn here. We are taught to cram and go and, pass an exam, but that doesn't give creative thinking and analytical competence. It just makes us dummies, as it were, just cramming. And so, but that has to be revamped. Then the next after that is the curriculum, what we actually learn. So if that could be revamped, so many of the things we learn today are not even relevant today. They're relevant yesterday. So we need to rethink that process and prepare our children and ourselves for the future. Learning things that are new technologies, new methodologies, new theories, and then the third to that is the infrastructure. So which means like the condition of learning and the tools with which we learn. Those are three ways I feel that some of these problems can be curtailed. Training, investing in the teachers, investing in the curriculum, and then of course making available more learning infrastructure. One thing I think that we can do and should do is move our education from a theoretical perspective to a skill-based perspective. What that means is we are aware that Nigeria is presently the country with the largest number of poor people in the world. Of poverty. And the only way people come out of poverty is through entrepreneurial drive and skill set, the skills that they have and what they can produce with that skill and sell and create businesses that grow big. So, but the channel of producing people with those skills ought to be the schools, but the schools are not producing people with the skills that they need to lift them out of poverty. So that way we are where we are currently, meaning you have a lot of unemployable graduates, but beyond unemployable, you have graduates who have not learned enough to be able to lift themselves and their families out of poverty line. So that is because our educational system is still theory-based, exam-based, test-based. It should be more of skill-based, meaning we go to school, we learn skills. We don't just learn theory. We don't just learn how to calculate 1 + 1. We're learning how to manufacture. We're learning how to program, how to create things, so that ultimately those things we create can be exported, can be sold, the economy can grow if people learn skills rather than just learning theory and just cramming. So I feel that there has to be that shift, and it's so because as a nation we need to leapfrog out of poverty into the 21st century, and the way to do that is learning advanced technologies that other nations have imbibed. For example, China, Singapore, Israel, they made investments in teaching their people technological skills, and that's why they've been able to leapfrog into the 21st century. So Nigeria definitely has to make that kind of decision when it comes to education. I think the future of education depends on the people that are in charge of deciding what the future of education should be. I used to speak with my grandma. She's late now, and the stories she tells us of when she was in school, some of them I can't relate with them now because they are so far-fetched. We've gotten so bad that those things she says and the way teachers were revered looks like it was ancient. But it went bad in the hands of some people because of lack of vision and mismanagement. So now we need to rethink, what should the education of Nigerian child be? What should a typical school be? What should they do? What should learning look like? So the future looks bright, but it's dependent on the people that make the right choices. While they might take time, the intervention in the interim has been digital form of learning.
Wow, that was our tech personality of the week, and time flies so much when we talk tech on this show. For comments and observation, you can reach us on the numbers and emails now showing on your screen. I'm Don Pedro Aganbi, and on behalf of the production crew, thank you for watching. I'll see you again.